side panel got to come out. Put aside. Sync button pulls out. Now you want a flathead screwdriver, wedge it into the side just here. Make a little gap. Pull the console round, and you're going to get the screwdriver into here and flip it open all the way along here. Being careful not to scratch the top cover. Pull it up till you hear the click. Turn it back round again. And carefully, we've got to take the faceplate off. Bearing in mind it's still attached to the RF board underneath with a cable, so be careful not to rip the cable. And what you want to do is get your finger into here, and you've got to pull this out and pull up the blue cable as well. Pull the cable out. Discard the cover. This has got to come off. So because 2 screws here, Torx TA security. Take these screws off the Wi-Fi board. And we can then pull this off. We want to unclip this here as well at the front on the RF board. Get a flathead screwdriver underneath and pull it off carefully. Torx T10 security screwdriver. We're going to take these screws out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screws. Unclip this off here. Put that aside for now. Pull the cover up, bearing in mind it's attached with a plug-in connector down here, so unplug from the motherboard by pulling out like that. Then this can be discarded. Okay, Blu-ray drive has got 2 plugs here, so we can just unplug those, pull the drive out and put the console chassis aside. Pull off the plastic holder. We're down to the drive. 4 screws have got to come out. Small crosshead screwdriver. Pull off the cover. Things to look out for with the Blu-ray drive are mechanical issues that you might come across, as well as the laser being faulty, which is normally your first place port of call. But if the disc isn't going into the drive properly, or it's stuck inside the drive, or it's not playing the disc for another reason that doesn't appear to be the laser, you need to have a look at the mechanics. There's a couple of things to look out for in particular. One thing is to clean this strip here, this roller. So this can often cause problems with the disc not going in properly, or if it goes in but isn't quite going in all the way, it's not reading the disc. Sometimes you'll put the disc in and you can hear that it's not reading the disc properly. Yes, often it can be the laser, but otherwise other times it can be because this roller here isn't clean enough. So what you want to do is get your cold clean spray, and some kitchen paper, spray it on, and you want to give this roller a really good clean. Get right in there if you can. And the plate that's underneath it, the white plate, you want to try and get your thumb into your finger into there, or your thumb, and give it a good clean all the way along. Next thing you want to do is you want to actually take the mechanics out of the drive shell. So you need to push upwards, hold it down, push up until it clicks like that. Pull the drive out. Right. Be careful with this board because there are two wires attached here. Sometimes you can pull the board off accidentally. It's not difficult to put back on. There's a red and a black wire there. It's even labelled B and R for black and red there. If you get stuck, they can easily be soldered back on. I'm just going to move that for now. Let's just have a quick look at the back of the mechanics. Things to look out for. You want to make sure that the mechanics look like this. So this little cog here, you need to make sure that the teeth of these two cogs are correct, in the correct position. If they're out of alignment or not in properly, it's not going to work properly. And you need to make sure that this cog here, the first tooth, sits in on that side just there. That one has got to fit, that has got to fit into that tooth there. Okay, that's the correct way for it to be. Sometimes they can come out of alignment ever so slightly, so just check that first of all. Next you want to pull this back, and then make sure that this lifts backwards and forwards properly. So you need to move this first, otherwise you see that won't move until you move this. Push it all the way to the top, all the way up to there, as far as it will go. Make sure that's smooth. Make sure this moves up and down like that. If it's stuck, there's a problem somewhere. Another thing you want to do is, with your cold clean spray, you want to clean all around, anywhere where there's some available space to clean, and also on the other side here. Make sure you give this a clean inside here as well. You also want to make sure that in here, want to make sure that this clip here is in position properly and it hasn't been broken off at all, otherwise that won't work properly. And you want to make sure that these are all in position here, so give those a check. You want to make sure that this belt and that belt there are taut. Any looseness on either of those belts and it's not going to work properly. Okay, they're the main issues really. The main one is making sure that this is working freely here. Make sure that this here is underneath this metal arm here, is underneath this black mechanical part here. Sometimes it will come out of position like this. You see, now that metal lever there is now above this black connector here, and that's not going to work properly. So you want to make sure that it sits underneath there, and so that it slides back up and down there properly. Okay, that's one of the biggest issues you'll see. So that's probably one of the big problems. Also, the roller here, make sure this is nice and clean. That's probably the number two mechanical issue that I see with these drives. And then put your laser back in and try again. If it's still not working, you want to be swapping the laser for another one to see if that's part of your problem. Putting it back together again. This slides back into position like so. Make sure when you're pushing this back in, got this a little bit wrong here, push it back in, making sure that this plastic arm here goes underneath this bit here, like that. Push it all the way back in. There we go, that's back in now. So now that's back in, we can put the laser back in as well. Three screws. Board back in, making sure the board goes underneath this black little clip here. Pull the connectors up and put the connectors in. Put the cables back in. Okay, put the three screws back in as well. Okay, and that's it. This cover's going to go back on here as well, and the four screws. But before I go any further, if you're swapping out the lasers and you've tried cleaning the mechanics and checking the mechanics and the drive still doesn't work, you might want to buy a replacement Blu-ray drive. A complete unit sometimes can do the trick as well, which you can buy from eBay or Amazon. When you get your replacement drive, you're going to get the full drive like this. What you'll need to do is you'll need to take this board, which is your original circuit board inside the drive. The original circuit board has got to go into the donor drive. So your new drive that you buy from eBay or Amazon, what you'll need to do is you'll need to desolder these two cables off here. It's easy to do. Take the board out, and this board then needs to be soldered onto your replacement board, onto your replacement drive. So you need to solder these two cables onto your new drive with your existing board. So the board that comes with the replacement drive, you can throw that out, it's no good to you. You're going to need your original board here to go with you, which is married up to your motherboard inside your console. Plastic holder back on. Okay, this is going to go back into the chassis. So get the chassis back out. Two plugs into the board. Make sure this is properly in place. These two parts of the plastic holder have got holes in the motherboard. Make sure they're in place, otherwise the console won't go back together properly. Okay? That feels like it's in place. Check the hard drive is in place. Cover's going back on, but make sure this connector goes into the board first. So put the connector in. Sit it back on top. Make sure that it feels like it's properly on top of all the peripherals inside the console. All the big black screws back in. Torx T10, screw them back down. Wi-Fi board back onto the connector, and then the 2 Torx T8 screws back in. Put the connector back onto the front, clip it in carefully. Clip this little soundboard back in onto the front. Right, ready to put the top cover on with the faceplate. Now the faceplate is still attached to the front cover at the moment. We want to take this faceplate off here first before we put it back together. If you try and put this back on here right now, you're going to get into trouble, into all sorts of problems getting it back into place properly. So we want to unclip this first of all, and the way to do it is by unclipping from this end first, unclipping each of these until the faceplate comes off. So pull it off. Can sometimes take a few efforts, but there we go, that's come off exactly. So we're going to put the faceplate back into position first of all. So this connector here has got to go into this here. And then push in. That's it, that's now secure. This faceplate has got clips all the way along. Make sure it clips in to the corresponding positions on the bottom cover, and it should fit in properly like that, okay? Top cover. Make sure it's slotted in at the back in the correct place. Pull around to the front, and then make sure that these slots here fit underneath the corresponding position on the top cover. And here it clicks into place properly. Put the sink connector back in on the side grille back into place.